should I pay extra on my 30-year fixed mortgage? And you have a 3% and you're at 42 and you want to retire by 58 years old. Okay, so the metric that I typically use is how much can I earn from the high yield savings account? I know that's such a generic answer, but I'm going to try to break it down for you. So your mortgage rate at 3%, that's going to give you more opportunity in the stock market. So if you're looking to just pay off your home because you're much more risk averse, then feel free. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer on this, but you just have to realize that there's also going to be a opportunity cost that you could miss out on. So if you got a 3% mortgage rate for the 30 years and your home equity keeps going up, and what's going to happen with the stock market, right? I mean, you could get an 8% return for the next 10, 20 years on average annual return. And it may be even better because like the S&P 500 has been performing like 12% average annual return for the last 10 years. So when I look at, I just use the HYSA metric with, let's say, 5% APY, and the mortgage is at 3%, right? So with the mortgage, say the balance, I don't know what your mortgage balance is, but if it's like $300,000, and if I put that into a 5% APY, the 2% difference is going to be pretty significant. So that's something that you want to keep an eye on. So if I were in your shoes, let's say I'm going to use 400K mortgage balance, and I would deposit that into the 5% APY instead of paying that off. And I'm guessing that's your question, is that you have the money to pay it off now. But I would, just putting money into the savings account is going to be paying more than the 3% mortgage rate. But if you want to retire and you are considering your risk and your age, and you are 44 years old, and if you're going to be, let's say 50, right? And you want to retire at 50, you don't want any debt on it, then have a plan to pay it off within the next 6 years, 7 years. Or you don't have to pay it all at once if you don't want to. You can just kind of like pay it off in segments for the next 10 years, 15 years, or something like that. So if you have a 30-year fixed mortgage, you can always plan to pay extra once a year or every month, and so that you turn that 30-year fixed mortgage into a 15-year payoff plan. Okay, so consider your age and consider your risk. And so the other question I had the other day, someone asked me, one of my clients, was, if I want to buy a house right now, it's going to hurt. I feel like, I'm paying a lot, let's say 7% APY. And, what is it? You're paying like a $400,000 home, and the P&I is going to be about $3K per month between the principal. And if you're looking at escrow for, let's say, homeowners insurance plus property tax, I mean, that could easily be between $3,700 to $4,000 a month, right? So if I were to buy a house right now, I would make sure to have enough cash set aside so that you don't exceed 25% of your gross income towards your home payment. You don't want to be house poor. You don't want to pay 30% of your income towards your mortgage payment and everything else, because now you don't have any room to pay for your fund or invest in retirement or investing something else in short term. By the way, did you know that over 50% of Americans who make over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck? So is it always an income problem or a spending problem? If you're having trouble figuring out your budget, I encourage you to download a budgeting app called YNAB. YNAB stands for You Need a Budget. That's right. Whether you make $50,000 a year or $300,000 a year, every one of you needs to create a budget to achieve financial independence. You need to give every dollar a job so that you can be more intentional with your savings and spending. You can get a free trial without any credit card information by using the link in the description below. A lot of people made their mistakes in 2020 and 2021 to the point where they were paying 45%, 50% of their income towards the mortgage payment. And that's a problem, because now they gotta make these expenses, they gotta make these payments, and some of them never even sold their homes and they just bought them. And you wanna make sure that if you're going to buy $400,000 with 7% mortgage rate, if $4,000 and let's say $3,000 divided by 25%, that would be $144,000 a year, right? So let me do the calculation real quick, just the worst case scenario. So if your mortgage payment is $4,000 a month divided by 25%, I mean, you got to make $160,000 a year in gross income. And that's what I was talking about earlier in this live stream, is that how many people make $160,000 a year? So home affordability obviously is going to be an issue. Do I think the home prices are going to come down? In some areas they will, But I live in Vegas, and the demand in Vegas is ridiculous because Californians and other people from other states, and I'm not targeting Californians here, they're coming here and they sell their homes in California with the large equity, and they come here and buy a house with cash, right? And it's just not just California, but maybe New York and other states come here and just buy a house with cash. So people are still buying homes regardless of the mortgage rate. But the other problem is there's not enough inventory. So just to answer your question, though, it's up to you. There's no right or wrong answer on when you want to pay it off, but you do have a low mortgage rate. And if I were in your shoes, I would keep investing while the mortgage rate is still low. But if you feel like you're risk averse, you want to pay off all of your debt and retire early and not have to worry about any payments, go for it since you got the cash. But really good question. Good luck to you on that.